on 7th, and it's called Five Simple and Powerful Strategies That Work to Increase Retention, to keep great employees on your team. We're going to wait 1 minute and then we'll start. We'll just see if it takes folks an extra minute to arrive. If you want to, you can post a message, just say hi or where you're joining us from. Hi, welcome from Chicago and Fort Myers in Canada, Bay Area. Awesome. So we're going to talk today about retention, and we're going to talk about 5 simple and powerful retention strategies that work really well. So I'm very glad that you're able to join us today. And I'm going to be answering questions. So if you have a question for me, leave that question in the chat and I'll answer as many questions as I can. Hello from Montreal. Hello from Dallas and Mauritius. All right. Happy to see you. Nova Scotia, Cairo, South Carolina. Magnificent. All right. We're going to wait 30 more seconds and then we'll start talking about retention. And if you have a question for me, just leave it in the chat and I'll answer several questions during this live stream. Hello from Silicon Valley, Poland. Welcome. Joanna. Yakshapanima. Welcome from Aberdeen, Saudi Arabia. Okay, so we're talking today about retention. First of all, what is retention? Retention means keeping employees on your team versus having them leave. Retention has to be one of the top priorities for every leader and HR person and lots of other people in organizations right now. Why? Because a lot of people are changing jobs. It's a big theme right now. Should I stay? Should I go? Should I change jobs? And if you're thinking about retention, that means what you would really love is for your employees to stick around and stay on your team. So the question is, how do we make it very easy for employees to stay? The good news is that it's easier to keep employees on your team. It's easier for them to stay, much easier than it is for them to leave. So I'm going to be talking today about 5 simple strategies that are going to make it easier for you to keep people feeling good, feeling valued, feeling supported, and staying on the team. And I'm going to talk about those strategies as we go through this live stream LinkedIn Live event today. But first, I want to set up the conversation a little bit by talking about why retention is so important. And I also want to talk about what retention is and what it isn't. First of all, let's talk about why retention is such a critical topic. If you keep employees on your team longer, lots of good things happen for your organization. One of them is that it becomes much easier to recruit. Why does it become easier to recruit when the retention is better? Because employees stay in an organization that they deem to be healthier and more supportive. And the better your organization is at supporting employees, the more the reputation as a great place to work is going to spread. Employees themselves are some of the greatest conduits to recruitment because they tell the people they know they like their job. When you like your job, you tell people. And even if you don't actually invite your friends and family members and neighbors to come to work in the same company with them, you're going to tell people, I like my job. And believe me, that reputation will spread very far and very fast. Unfortunately, What else will spread is a bad reputation. If a workplace is deemed by its employees to be a bad place to work, that reputation is also going to spread like wildfire, and it's going to make it hard for you to recruit. So, the first benefit of retention is that it makes it easier for you to hire new people. People are excited to reply to your job ads. They're excited to come and interview with you because they already know it's a good place to work because they've heard that around the neighborhood or on social media or from someone at the gym. They hear that it's a good place to work. That's your best calling card. That's your best recruiting advantage is your culture. And your culture, of course, is very tied up with retention. People don't leave companies where they like to work. They don't leave companies where they feel valued and supported. They don't leave companies where they feel that the company cares about them as more than just a unit of output. So, this is our goal as leaders, as HR people, and as working people to make the energy inside our workplace as positive and as human as it can be. There's another advantage to retaining employees longer on your team, and that is it's easier to hit your goals. Of course, it's easier to hit your goals when the same people have been working together, getting used to each other, gelling as a team, and being able to focus on the forward motion of hitting their objectives and hitting your department's goals and your organization's goals. When people are coming in and out all the time, the team doesn't have time to gel. And there's energetic disturbances. Here's a new person. They do things differently. They don't understand how we do things. So consistency, having people staying on the team for a while is very important toward hitting your goals and moving your organization forward. And you know that if you've been on a team where people had time to coalesce as a team, as a unit, versus a team where they didn't. People were coming and going. They call that a revolving door situation. It's very hard to hit your goals in that kind of environment. A third benefit of retention is that your training costs go down and the time required to get people up to speed on their jobs goes down because people have been in the job for a longer time. Career paths become easier to operationalize when people stay in the company because you have people that you can designate for bigger responsibilities. If your turnover is high, people don't stay long enough to become well versed in your procedures and in the way you operate and to train other people. Another advantage, a big advantage of higher retention is institutional knowledge. That means that inside the organization, there's a tremendous amount of subject matter knowledge, customer relationships, knowledge about the industry that stays in the organization. To have that knowledge leave out the door by someone resigning who would not have resigned if they were treated a little better, if they were valued a little more, that's a tragedy. That's a human cost as well as a business cost. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So when we talk about retention, it's not just something that shows up as a KPI or as a goal for an HR person or a manager. It's good for the entire organization and its customers and its shareholders or other stakeholders. It's good for everybody to have people stay in the organization versus leaving. That's the setup. Why are we talking about retention today? That's why. I would say that with all the things that are going on in the world, all the things that are going on in the working world, a leadership team, an HR team has no higher priority in 2023 than retention. As a matter of fact, we could say that the two things we want to be focused on regarding employees as managers, as HR folks, training, talent acquisition, organizational development, all the folks involved in the people functions, the only two things that really, really matter are recruiting bringing great folks into the organization, and retention. That's it. Because what else could even rise to that level? Nothing else. I'm going to take a break and go to the comments really quickly, respond to a couple of the comments, and then I'll be back and we'll talk about the 5 simple and powerful strategies to improve retention. Energetic disturbances, Cindy, that's what we're talking about. Sometimes a good thing. You'll have to spell out that argument for me. I'm talking about an energetic disturbance of a negative type, the kind that happens when things are not addressed, things are not discussed, and we can feel it, but we don't act on it. But I'm sure that you have a great story to tell about times when disturbance in the energy might be a good thing. Andrew, most of the Gen X and even millennials don't care about longevity. They only care about money, and they seem to leave for the money, not culture. See, the thing is that we as employers have to respond to the workforce as it is. We could wish that it were different. There's a reason why younger people are focused on money. Unfortunately, a lot of them have seen their parents and grandparents really give everything to their employers and unfortunately often not have that contribution gratified. And so they feel that they need to care about money. First of all, the cost of housing is incredible. The inflation, the increase in the cost of housing is so out of control that I could pay for my own apartment in Chicago, 1-bedroom apartment in the 80s on a customer service salary, a wage. And now a young person can't afford a studio on their own. It's virtually impossible. So they don't have a choice about whether or not to care about money. The fact is that our jobs have to pay enough for people to live on. And we can say, oh, I wish young people were different, but well, they're not, right? And there's good reasons, environmental reasons for them to look at the work relationship the way they do. And we have to accept that, and we have to incorporate that into our thinking and our planning. Okay. People leave when they are not valued, Victoria. Absolutely. We have to value our employees. So how do we show that? How do we do that? How do we do that as a practical matter every single day? Some attrition is desired, though, isn't it? I think that's a good question, Shem. That is an idea we've heard. Attrition is good. Why? Why is it good? Why is it good? It's good if someone is causing problems, right? But how often does that happen? Do we want that to happen? I don't subscribe to the view that attrition is just good. I don't know. I'd need you to make that argument a little more strongly. Okay, let's see what else we've got in terms of comments. One more, and we'll get back to the agenda. Lima, Peru. So wonderful that you're here in New Jersey, my home state. Cornelius, happy to see you here. All right, I don't think we have another question. Okay, so let's talk about, now that we established that retention is a good thing for the organization, what goes into a retention mindset? When I talk about 5 simple and powerful strategies for retention that work, what am I talking about and what am I not talking about? I'm not talking about policies. I'm not talking about programs, and maybe not even an initiative. I have policies, all kinds of policies I'm super happy to share with you. And if you want to hear policy ideas, if you are looking for some ideas about really positive, employee supportive, human powered policies to implement in your organization, or bad, unfortunate, antiquated policies to get rid of, then leave a comment and say, I want to hear the policies. And I will tell you some policy changes to consider at the end of this live stream. But when we're talking today about 5 simple and powerful ways to increase retention, I'm not talking about policies. Why not? Well, you can have great policies. You can pay really well, have a great pay policy. You can have lots of flexibility and time off and all kinds of things. I want you to do all of that if it's appropriate for your situation, for the workforce that you're trying to attract and the people you've got on board and their needs and the needs of the business. But I can't say to you that I'm going to come on LinkedIn and share 5 simple and powerful retention strategies and then tell you here's a policy you need to implement. First of all, it's not so easy to implement a policy. You have to get approval from higher ups and people higher than that. And it takes time, and it takes some political capital that takes time to build up. And you've got a lot of other things on your desk. I wanted today to give you some simple strategies you could implement right now, today or tomorrow or next week, right? And so that's what we're going to do. The other thing is that you can have great policies, but if the energy inside your workplace isn't very friendly and warm and supportive, the policies will not keep people on board. People quit all the time from jobs that have great policies because they say, my company stresses the policies and the programs they've implemented, but they don't treat me well. Funny thing, they have a great policy, but they don't treat me well. And I'll give you one example. It became very fashionable about 15, 20 years ago to say we no longer have vacation time, sick time, personal time. We have PTO, one PTO, paid time off bank. And you can use that however you need. And some companies call it unlimited time off. I don't like that terminology because it isn't unlimited. Obviously, you can't just say, I won't be coming in anymore. It's not unlimited. It's all based on a manager's approval. So now what happens? We stop saying you have this many days of vacation time, personal time, holidays, sick time. Now we say it's unlimited, but your manager has to approve it. Well, what if they don't? What if they don't? What if they say, no, you can't take next Thursday off? I know you'd like to pick up your mom at the airport, but you won't be doing that because I need you here. Now we're back in the 1950s. What is your recourse? What can you do? You start thinking about updating your resume. It's all about the tiny little interactions, the tiny little transactions that happen at work. That's what people are paying attention to, not some overarching policy in the sky. How does my manager treat me? How do they talk to me? Right? How do I manage my workload? Does anyone support me with that? Or am I completely on my own? What are the expectations of me when I leave work? Am I expected to be reachable until midnight tonight? Or can I go home and kind of put the workload down and know that I'll be back tomorrow morning? In other words, what I'm asking you is, how good or bad is the level of trust? How much trust is there in the organization on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, and minute-to-minute basis? That's where retention comes from. When people are trusted. People are trusted at work when they are valued above and beyond their ability to hit the metrics. When your manager says, hey, I noticed that you were still online at 8 o'clock last night and you took care of some huge things, and I'm so grateful. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you, until noon tomorrow. Just please take a break because I need you healthy and I appreciate you and I see what you're doing. If a manager feels empowered to do that in the moment when it's appropriate, there's more health and more trust in your organization than if they don't. Trust and empowerment go hand in hand because you're empowered when you're trusted, right? And when managers are trusted, they are likewise empowered. Salaried employees, right, can't get overtime in the US, right? Most salaried employees are not eligible for overtime. So we have to be really careful about what we ask salaried employees to do above and beyond their normal work schedule because they're not getting paid. And people get ground down and they get resentful. And that's why they'll take the next call from a recruiter and they'll think about changing jobs. It's not because they're badly paid. It's because they don't have any personal life anymore and they don't feel valued. This is where I, as an HR person, am going to be really tuned in and listening to employees and asking employees, how are you doing? How's it going? How's the job? How can I help you? That's what we have to do. As an HR person, I figured out that my job was not processing vacation requests and taking care of payroll issues and giving people a replacement ID and all. It is all that. But way more importantly, it's asking them, how you doing? How you holding up? How's the job? How are things going? What do you need? What do I need to know? How can I support you? How can I help you? That's the real job of every manager, every HR person, every training, learning and development person, every OD person, every recruiting person. How's it going? asking, listening, and responding to the replies. It's energetic. It's not policy, right? It's not a policy manual. Nobody ever felt warm and cozy and fuzzy about a policy, right? It's the energy in the place. I went to interview at a company when I was about 28, and I thought it might be a cool job. They needed an HR manager, and I met with one of the sales VPs, Roger. Roger's probably not on this live stream, but he knows who he is. And I said, Roger, so why do customers buy your products? What sets you apart from your competitors? And he said, well, I think our products are really good. And I think our sales team is really good. But what I found is that if I can get a prospective buyer into our facility, our warehouse, our manufacturing floor, our office, they will buy from us. I said, wow, why is that? And he said, because it's very obvious. People like working here. It's a good energy, and that gets the customers to buy. And I said, oh, I want this job. Yeah, I'm gonna come and work here, because they cared about the energy in the place, and that is everything. That is exactly what they should care about. Conversely, once I started consulting 20 years later, I got a call from a CEO and said, come and see me. I have some consulting work for you. I need your help. I said, great. I was all young and eager-beavery. I just jumped in my car and went to his office, and he met me in the lobby. And he said, okay, we're going to walk through this hallway, and then we'll get in the elevator. You can see some of our office. Look just like any office, but whatever. We're walking. He's talking to me, and here's what I notice. He's passing 15, 20 people coming the other direction in the hallway. Nobody looked at him. He didn't smile at them. They didn't smile at him. Well, maybe he's a little bit introverted. People averted their eyes. He's walking by. We get in the elevator. There's a bunch of people, not a word. We get up to the second or third floor where his office was. We're walking. People are doing the same thing, kind of skirting this guy. We sit down in his office. He says, so, tell me about yourself. I said, well, I'm super happy to hear about your situation. It's not telling me about yourself. It's not an interview. I'm not getting paid for this, but I have to ask you why we just passed 100 people and nobody spoke to you and you didn't speak to them. I mean, is that the culture? I also didn't hear any happy chatter. I didn't hear people talking to one another. It actually creeped me out. So that has to be high on our list of topics to discuss today, or else it just doesn't make any sense. He was freaked out. And he said, how is that? I said, how is that a topic? How is that not the topic? You have a problem in your company. You called me to help you solve the problem. And I told you that I walked in and saw in neon lights, 10 feet tall, that there's something wrong in the energy here. So I'm happy to help you with that if you can see it as a real issue. And if you can't, I got to go, right? This is what I'm talking about with you folks right now. Okay, let's see. I want to hear the policy. Okay, Michelle, got to vote for the policy. All right. So we're talking about the energy in your workplace. How do you affect the energy without a policy or a program? That's the wrong thing. That stuff is great, but it's added on top. You got to bake a cake. Then you can put whatever kind of frosting you want on top, but you have to bake the cake. If the energy is dark, if it's not good, right? If it's not open and honest and people are not sharing and they're not happy to be there, and they're not talking to one another about real issues that matter, then a policy and a program is not going to help you. It starts with you. You need to believe that you can make a difference in your workplace by shifting the energy. I don't know if you've ever been to a sporting event. You don't say soccer, I guess, outside the US, football or American football or baseball, where they do the wave through the crowd. Everybody gets up and then they get down. It's a wave that moves through a crowd of 40, 70,000 people, and it's started by one or two people. They start a wave. How does it make its way through a massive crowd of people? That's what you're going to do. Energy moves in waves. It's not particles. It's not a spreadsheet. It's not cells in a spreadsheet. This employee seems happy. How happy are they? 68% happy. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. We're not going to do that. We're not going to evaluate people on how engaged we think they are. That's not something we're going to measure at the individual level. We're going to say, how healthy is our environment? How are you going to know? how healthy it is. Well, first of all, how's turnover? How many performance problems are there, right? You're going to have more performance problems in an unhealthy environment and fewer performance problems in a healthy environment. Are people bringing their friends to apply for jobs? That's a big indicator. If they're not, they don't love their job, right? These are the things you're going to look at. How involved are people in cross departmental projects, or do they feel like they have not one spare minute to spend? Let's say you have a diversity initiative going on. Are people participating in it? If they're not, it's probably because they were afraid they'd get in trouble if they took time away from their regular work. And that goes for any initiative outside of the regular work on their desk, right? How is your performance review system set up to encourage and motivate and reinforce people? Or is it? If you have ranking, any type of ranking where employees are compared to one another and told, oh, you're 16 out of 45, that's not good for your culture. That's not good for trust, obviously, because it pits employees against one another. That's a fear-based system. And we're trying to diminish the level of fear or eliminate it and increase the level of trust. How involved are your executives with the people on the floor doing the work, right? How involved? Do they know? Will they banter and talk with people? The person answering the phones, the person in the mailroom, the person in the shipping department. Is that a common thing for executives at the top level to interact with people throughout the organization or not? That's a big indicator of the level of fear versus trust in your organization. You start to shift the energy by looking at yourself and your interactions with the people around you. If you are in a people focused function like HR, recruiting, payroll, organizational change, organizational development, diversity and inclusion, talent acquisition, any of these things, this is a big, big priority. Not the spreadsheet and the deliverables and the budget and the operating plan. All that stuff is important, but your energy that you bring to your coworkers every day, a trusting, open, non-hierarchical, non-formal, right? Energy to be open to having a relationship with them that is more than just they have a role and you have a role and those roles might intersect. It's building trust. It's having the courage, just a teensy weensy little bit of courage to be human with your colleagues all the time or as much of the time as you can manage. I'm going to look at a couple of the comments and respond to them, and then we'll keep going. Question anything that sounds like us versus them. That is the truest words ever. Tiffany Brewster. I'm not surprised. Tiffany is genius career coach in the Human Workplace Career Coaching Network, and this is the right on comment. Question anything that starts to sound like us versus them beliefs about employees coming from leadership. If leaders are talking about the employees, well, the employees, big problem, big problem. What you want from leaders is to know a lot of the employees, to care about knowing the employees, and not to see them as a block, BLOC, not to see them as a monolithic entity. Like, we're going to do this to the employees, we're going to do that. No. Get out and interact with the people on your team. Why would they be on your team if they don't believe in the team? If you want them to believe in the team, they got to believe in you as a leader. Ripple effect, Subhash, exactly, or domino effect. Okay, Emmanuel, we've got a great culture in our org. The managers are super approachable and so on, and yet we're bleeding attrition like never before. Okay, so here's some of the issues that may be going on. You might not be paying enough, right? Because there is no reason for people to leave if they're valued and if they are recognized for their contributions. The principal way that your organization or any organization values and recognizes people is in their paycheck, right? That's the first place to look. Bottom of Maslow's hierarchy for employees. Am I paid enough? Am I paid enough to live on? But also, am I paid what these jobs pay? Got to be in touch with that market rate. right? So if you have high attrition, something is broken. It's just the most obvious sign in the world. We can't blame the employees for doing what's in their best interest. It's a pain in the neck to job hunt. It's a pain in the neck to job hunt. Nobody does it for the heck of it. If they do it, it's because they did not have enough glue tying them to your organization. They don't want to do it. People want to plug into a really great energy source. It's very easy to reinforce that and to amplify that positive wave of energy, but you have to do it. It has to be an active part of your leadership philosophy and your daily activities. Okay. Let's see what else we've got in the comments. Tap into diversity and underrepresented workforce. Your business will improve all around. There are nonprofits supporting employer working towards diversity and inclusion. Okay, yeah. It's just occurring to me, Tiffany, that quiet quitting is an employee starting to manage the company through their personal policy. The company doesn't like being managed in that way. The people don't like it either. Quiet quitting. Quiet quitting is a nomenclature that came into popularity in the media a couple of years ago. It's people not being 100% into their job, right? It's not intentional. It's not like somebody says, I'm going to withhold my effort. It doesn't help them. People are dying to plug into something. Everybody has a model. Most of us have a model for really, really fizzy, really engaged, really fun communal activity. Some people, it's in a sports team they may participate in, or maybe they played sports in high school or college and they remember that great feeling of being on the team working toward a goal. For me, it's opera and musical theater because that's my background. And I just know there's nothing more powerful for me than being part of a cast that is producing a show, and the audience's energy is there and our energy and the musicians, and you just feel it's the greatest feeling in the world to go on stage and just give them a great show. It's an emotionally elevated, lifted up setting. And I always felt as an HR person, my job was to create some of that great energy and lifted up, elevated feeling in the workplace. But quiet quitting, this idea of pulling back from that, is a response to being shunned, being shut down, being not listened to, being not rewarded, being not appreciated. And a lot of people, unfortunately, feel that way right now because they just spent 3 years helping their employer get through COVID. Great personal sacrifice. People working at home that really can't work at home. There's no space for it. There might be dogs and children underfoot. It was very stressful, but they did it. And now they feel like that sacrifice is just, no one cares. Sometimes because they say, get your ass back to the office, with no concern for their welfare or their needs. And sometimes it's just like, well, we had an unbelievable year. We made incredible profits. Shareholders are really happy, but you're getting a 1% raise. So we have to be really honest about what constitutes value and recognition. We can't get upset at our employees when they quit. When they quit, they made the right decision. That's the harsh truth we have to accept. I remember getting upset with somebody. I can't believe the person quit. That's just me struggling to accept reality. Mother Nature, they say, is the best teacher, right? Mother Nature is going to teach you every time. Employee quits. When I'm mad at the employee for quitting, that's silly. They quit because it was in their best interest to quit. If I had a story to tell and I didn't tell my story, I did not make a compelling case why they should sell, then I need to be better at selling, right? Can't blame your customers when they don't buy, and we can't blame our employees when they quit, right? That's the first thing. We got to step up because leadership means taking responsibility. All right, back to our agenda. You might be waiting for the 5 simple and powerful retention strategies. Okay, so here they are. You're going to create this wave, like I mentioned, at a sporting event. Everybody's up and then they're down, and the wave travels through the whole stadium by starting with yourself. You're going to commit to look for 3 to 5 interactions every single day. If you're at home, working remotely, if you're in an office, a warehouse, a sales floor, wherever you are, you're going to look for opportunities to reinforce your coworkers every time. And reinforcing does not mean, right, saying, I can't believe this place. I can't believe they changed our hours again, right? I mean, you can say that if that's how you feel, but then you have to say, so what should we do about it? Should we talk to our boss? If 3 of us go and talk to our boss, maybe that will have some impact. It's when people can't talk about what's on their minds, that they look outside. Maybe another employer will be more receptive. That's when they leave, right? So you're going to start this energetic shift by looking at your interactions. Are you supporting your coworkers? And how could you do that more and more effectively? It's a shift in mindset. How are you doing today? How's it going? How can I help you? If you're in HR or leadership, it's obvious. Every conversation is an opportunity to ask someone, how can I support you? What do you need from me? How are you doing? How are things on the job? How's your workload? We don't often organically start these conversations because we're afraid. What if it becomes a 20-minute conversation? Well, it would be better to invest those 20 minutes to have that conversation than to have that person give notice the next week, right? You say, I interacted with you 100 times. We talked about your vacation time. We talked about all these things. You never told me you were unhappy. You never asked. You're HR. You never asked how I was doing. I didn't feel like I could disclose that. It seemed like kind of scary. We have to make it not scary. We have to say, I want to hear, how are things? How's it going? How are you feeling? How's the job? That's actually the job of HR, is to ask people all the time, what can I do for you? What do you need? What are you excited about? What are you working on? And whatever they tell us, positive or negative, we don't say, oh my gosh, it's another complaining employee. We're never going to get out of the pit. We're never going to get out of a hole if we take the view that an employee telling us how they feel is a bad thing. It has to be a good thing, a positive thing. They say feedback is a gift. It might be painful to hear it sometimes, but we have to hear it. We have to hear it. We have to receive it, and we have to say, I hear you. I absolutely hear you. Let me tell you what I can do, what I can't do, but at least I'll tell you what I can do, and maybe we can, make progress. Why do companies still in this day and age, 2023, have problems with sexual harassment and discrimination? It's because people don't feel comfortable talking to HR, right? As HR people, we have to see that and we have to deal with it. We have to make it easier for people to talk about good things and bad things that are happening on the job. That's how we create a little one-person zone of more health, more trust, right? More openness, more humanity, and we spread that to the other people that we interact with. People want to do this, right? You know who the people are in your organization that want your culture to be great. They don't care necessarily about retention as a business goal, but they care about how it is to work there. Is it fun? Is it not fun, right? Is it stressful? Is it uplifting? They want to talk about this stuff. So talk about it all the time. Talk about it and say, I'm so glad to talk to you about this because you, like me, really care about the atmosphere here and the energy, and I want to just keep amplifying that. That's what I have done in my HR jobs. It's more impactful than saying we have a new policy that we're going to give you one extra vacation day a year. There's nothing wrong with that, but that is not nearly enough to counteract somebody feeling like they're not recognized and not valued. Anything coming down from the sky, from senior management, is not going to affect an employee who personally feels like they're not seen. So see them, meet them, ask them. Say, we talked like a month ago. I haven't seen you. How's everything since then? You were kind of stressed out. There's a lot of work. Is it better? Yeah, it's actually so much better. Thank you for asking me, Samantha. Oh, no, of course, all the time. That's why I'm here. That's what our job is. All leaders, all HR people, all talent acquisition people, all training people, right? So shift. It's interactions on the ground. That's where you have impact. That's the first strategy. Look for 3 to 5 interaction opportunities a day where you can reinforce someone and you can ask them and give space for them to tell you, how are you doing? What do you need? How's it going? That's number 1. Number 2 is support managers. People leave companies because of unfortunate experiences with managers. And why are managers being difficult such that people leave? Because they're stressed out. It's not rocket science, right? Support managers, same thing. When I was in HR, I met with managers all the time to say, how are you doing? How are you holding up? What do you need? They need someone to talk to. They don't want to be a jerk. They don't want to yell at someone. They don't want to threaten someone. They They got pressure from above saying you have to produce these results, pressure from below, employees saying we're unhappy about this or that. It's a very tough job being a manager. Support managers all the time. Ask them, want to talk about anything? What's on your mind? How's it going? You had that one thing that you were dealing with somebody was transferring in and someone was transferring out. How's that all going? People get very, very stressed out and they don't know who to talk to about it. And then they manifest that stress in unfortunate ways. And then you have problems and you have turnover. So look for 3 to 5 interactions a day and support managers. So important. Along with those interactions that you're looking for, to be human, to ask folks what they need, to reinforce them, to acknowledge them, you are role modeling what it looks like to lead through trust. You're role modeling it. And you can do that at every meeting. Every single gathering or meeting is an opportunity to build trust in your organization. But it's not going to be if you sit right down and you have the pen, okay, let's make this fast. We got to go through this thing. Burp, 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 burp. Who feels supported in that? That's all about production and not about people. But who runs a company? The people. Every meeting. Start out the meeting. You really do want to do this right? Start out the meeting saying, okay, 5 minutes. How are we doing? Could also be the end of the meeting. But if people tend to leave the meeting during the meeting, then you'll do it at the beginning. How are we doing? How's everybody doing? Honesty. How are we doing? How are we holding up? Now, managers sometimes will not broach this topic because they're afraid people will say, we're working too hard, we're working too many hours, and they don't want to acknowledge that because they don't know how to reduce the hours because they don't feel comfortable going to their manager, their higher up manager, and saying, my team is working too many hours. So as an HR person, I'm going to go with them, or I'm going to have a conversation with that higher up manager and say, I know you're really excited about these goals and you want to hit these goals. It's great. I want you to hit them all, but not at the expense of having employees get burned out. So we got to figure that out. Do we need some contractors in here? What do we need? We need to do something because your managers under you are feeling a lot of pressure from you to, taskmaster their employees. And that doesn't work in the long run. It's not worth losing people over. You say, really? You think these goals are aggressive? Yeah, they're so aggressive that it's a big topic in every one of the staff meetings in your organization. Am I saying that HR people and leaders need to find their backbone and find their voice? Yeah, that's the job. You can't do HR unless you're willing to tell the truth. And it's easier to tell the truth if you keep in mind that's what they're paying you for. They're not paying you to not tell the truth, even though sometimes it feels that way. You step through that fear a few times and then a few dozen times and you're not afraid of it anymore. It's like, that's why I'm here. If I let all these employees go out the back door because they hate working here, then I didn't do a very good job. But also, I'm not willing to have that in my resume, right? So you're going to get the truth. And it feels hard at first, like anything new, and it gets easier and easier and easier as you do it. So what have we talked about? 3 to 5 interactions a day for you to build that trust and community on the ground in a one-on-one. Supporting managers one-on-one and in groups. If you do not get your managers together right now, get them together. Informal lunch, whatever, Zoom, talk, say, let's talk about managing. Let's talk about leading. A lot of people sit there like this. I have no management problems. I'm fine. Everything's fine. How is it? It must be hard. There's a lot of pressure on you. What are you thinking about? How do you cope? Do you have any ideas to share? No, I have no ideas to share. I'm fine. You have to break that down. It takes a little while. It might take a few weeks. If you have a little weekly lunch, some people don't come. Finally, somebody says, come on, you guys, we can talk about this. It's a real thing, right? There are issues, of course, in any situation where there are managers managing employees. Let's talk about some of the stuff. Somebody will say, I got an issue. I got an employee. I don't know what's going on with them. They're lackluster. They don't seem like they care about their work. You say, okay, great. So let's talk about what you do in that situation. Obviously, you don't threaten them, right? They've already opted out with some of their energy. You're not going to threaten them. If you don't plug back in, well, they're not going to plug back in then, right? We know this. We know this about human nature. So we're going to support managers. We're going to look for those 3 to 5 interactions every single day. And before long, you are going to be the minister of culture in your workplace. And you're going to get other people doing the same thing. And then the third piece is every single meeting and every single one-on-one. How's it going? How are we doing? How are you doing? How am I doing? Let's talk about it. Let's reinforce one another and let's air topics that need airtime. So many of the what so-called performance problems would disappear if we would sit down and talk about what's not working in the training, in the process, in the acknowledgement. So many people would not quit their jobs if we could talk to them before they get to that point. If there were an openness, not an employee engagement survey, but one-on-one interaction that says, how's it going? What do you need? Well, actually, now that you ask me, thank you for telling me what you need. We're going to shift the energy to be more human, more alive, more warm, more proactive. This is how you keep people on your team so they don't even think about changing jobs. And if they do change jobs, they come to you and say, you know, it was a really hard decision, but I got to do this for my career. I'm going to leave. And you say, I'm happy for you. That's brilliant. You do have to do the right thing for your career, but we will be here if something changes. And you know this is working when people leave and then they come back. They leave and a year later they say, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I want to come back. And you say, come on back. That's how you build a great culture, right? It's fine to leave. We're never going to walk people out the door because they gave notice. It's normal to give notice. You're going to punish them and send a message to every single other employee. Better not give notice. So they won't say a word, right? They'll just leave and they'll send you a text that says, I'm not coming back. It's dumb. Okay. So we said every one-on-one is an opportunity for this energy shifting, building trust. Every meeting is an opportunity. One-on-ones and group meetings with managers in particular, very important because they are so critical in this cultural structure and energy flow. Then you're going to look at your language, the language you use to communicate with employees. Critical thing. One-on-one, meaning an email to a specific person or whatever, WhatsApp or your Slack or your notes, Teams rather, messages. How are you communicating? Warm. Don't have to be gushy, but just warm and human and open. Same type of thing that I'm talking about in a one-on-one phone conversation or Zoom conversation. How are you doing? How are things? When I was an HR leader, our company grew really, really fast and hired thousands of people in a short period of time. We grew because we were growing organically, but we were also acquiring companies all over the world. So all of a sudden, there were whole offices in countries where we had never had an office before or a manufacturing center. And so I didn't know these people, but I wanted this good energy to spread. And so a lot of folks would write to me. My email was lryan at our company name, and anybody could be named L. Ryan, Lisa Ryan, or Leo Ryan, or Larry Ryan. So I got a lot of misdirected email, as well as email that people sent to me, but they didn't really want me. It wasn't my job. They say, hey, Liz, can you help me with this completely unrelated, accounting issue? And I'd say, hey, thanks so much for writing. It's great to meet you virtually. I will copy the person who can help you with this thing. But if you don't hear from them or there's something goes wrong in the transmission, just write back to me. But anyway, you're in the customer call center in Poland. How's everything? I haven't been there yet. How are things going? I know you just opened up. Start a conversation. If they don't want to write back, they won't. But if they do, they will. And you develop relationships that person now can say to their colleagues, I don't know, I'm corresponding with this lady in the United States. She's pretty nice. She's asking me how things are going. And, she's seems to be willing to talk to me about stuff. So that's how you do this. It's not a policy that comes from the sky. It's you bringing your good energy and just keeping that open feeling like I want to help you and I want to know if something is amiss. That's also how you avoid sexual harassment charges and discrimination and horrible things, because when people are talking to you, any kind of problem gets nipped in the bud, and that's what you want and need, right? Okay, the last one. You asked for the policy, so I will give you the 5 policies that I think you can shift if you feel like really getting your culture going in a human workplace way, human-centric way. There are 5 policies I'm going to list for you, but we said interactions 3 to 5 a day, ideally. Secondly, support managers. Thirdly, every meeting is an opportunity to build trust and community at work. And the fourth one is language. Look at what you say in your emails and in your memos and in your pronouncements. It's some of it is harsh, some of it is very formal and gross, and it comes from a place of we are the management and we've decided. First of all, you're never going to let anybody, if you have anything to say about it, sign any memo or email the management. This is 1920s stuff. There is no the management, a name, a person who stands behind this message. And then you're going to say, I wanted to let you know. They're going to claim it. They're going to claim that message. They're going to take responsibility for it. Just going to be friendlier and warmer and more open and more human and more casual and more reinforcing. That's a very normal and natural thing to do. It's just that at work, a lot of us have been taught that it has to be very formal and all this kind of stuff, governmental. No, it doesn't. Even in government, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. There's no advantage. It's not clearer when language is more formal, right? And the last piece is your recruiting process. If your recruiting process is fast and fizzy and slippery and warm, you're going to bring people in on kind of a wave that's way more positive than the traditional one, way more positive. And that is actually going to help retention because they come in feeling like this is great. Your recruiting process and your onboarding process are massively important toward your culture and retention. Again, it's in the details. Look at the first communication that goes out to a candidate when they apply for a job in your company. And it needs to be, thank you so much. And it has to have a name. Even if they're not suitable for any of your open positions, you've got to come out from behind that wall and say, and be willing to write and say, Joshua, I'm sorry, there isn't anything open at the moment that's perfect for your skills, but we'd love to hear from you again if you see something else that seems like a better fit. Right? We have to do that because otherwise we can't complain if people leave because they don't feel like they're leaving people. In that case, they're leaving this like corporate monolith. That's not what we want. It's down on the ground where people get connected to other people and to a good energy. All right. You asked for policy, so I'm going to give them to you, and then I'll take a last look at the comments and see what we've got. 5 policies that will make a huge difference in your culture and therefore in retention, keeping people on your team. Okay? 5 policies. Number 1, get department managers out of the internal transfer and promotion process. If someone wants to apply for a job in another department, first of all, you want to post those jobs. As long as the employee has met the requirement, which might be 1 year in the first job you were hired in, is very common. Let them transfer. It's not up to their manager. We never want to make it easier to leave the company altogether than to transfer internally. Their manager hired them, but their manager has no claim on them. They're adults. They get to decide where they want to work. And if they want to work in another department and another manager wants to hire them, that's what they should do. You organize the interviews through HR. It's a confidential process. The manager has zip all to say about it. That's the right process for the year 2023. I know that because I implemented that process in my company in 1990, 33 years ago. There were 2 or 3 weeks of people saying, oh, that's so weird. So my employees are going to apply for a job. I don't even know about it. Yeah, you wouldn't know about it if they were applying across the street. If the employee gets the job, then you and this employee and the other manager will talk about a transition plan. Maybe it's 2 weeks of regular notice and they're tidying up loose ends and then a week of half and half or something. It's not going to be 8 weeks because once again, we can't prevent the real world from coming in and they wouldn't have to wait 8 weeks to go work somewhere else, but we're going to be adult about it and they're going to apply for jobs that they are qualified for and interested in without your knowledge. That's how it works, right? Very small thing in the end. And we're going to shift and go into that because we're treating our employees like the valued professionals and adults they are. Number 2, you're going to put the salary info in every job ad because it should be there. Keeping the salary out of a job ad is a statement to the talent community that you don't get to know because we don't want to tell you, because you might not take the job if you knew that it didn't pay enough for you. I just did a segment on a TV program a week ago about this, and they found out that something like 45% of candidates said they had wasted time applying for jobs that once they found out the job didn't pay enough, they dropped out. Who's helped in that situation? Who benefits? Not the employer. They had to waste all these cycles talking to candidates only who said, no, it's not enough money. Why didn't they just put the salary in the job ad? There's no good reason. There's no good reason to leave the salary information out of a job ad. There's no business reason. That is legitimate. So you're going to put the salary in the job ad. That's the second policy. The third one is you're not going to do employee engagement surveys anymore. Surveys are great for specific things. What date would you like us to do our company picnic, right? Would you rather have red or green carpeting in this lobby? Surveys are great to poll people on specific things, not how are you doing? That's an insult. That's really an insult if you think about it. You're working with these employees every day. You have countless opportunities to ask them, how you doing? Let's talk about it in detail. No, there's only one chance a year. You fill out the survey and you slip it through the bars in your cell. That's the opposite of building trust and community. We're not going to do employee engagement surveys, but you're going to use a bunch of other ways I'll tell you about in another LinkedIn Live to listen to your employees and get qualitative information for them. We all know the pitfalls with these so-called confidential surveys. Your manager gets mad at you if you don't fill it out, but if you tell the truth and there's anything negative, then they also get mad at you. It's not a good system. It's based on fear, right? So we're not going to do that anymore. The fourth policy, this is a really heavy one, and it's just very important. Bereavement leave. That means when someone lost a loved one, just give them the time off. You don't ask them for a funeral notice, which unfortunately is not an uncommon practice in HR departments. No, you're not asking them for a funeral notice. Imagine being at that point in your life in pain, maybe watching a loved one deal with injury for years or months, illness, and now they've left us. You have to prove that they died. Are you kidding me? That's so horrible. Get rid of that policy. If you don't trust your employees, why are they on your payroll? Did someone once in history falsify this information out of whatever they were struggling with and it overcame them and they did that and they got 2 days off without pay? Yes, I'm sure someone did. So what? We're not going to manage to the bottom, as they say. We're not going to manage against the worst case. Managing to keep horrible things from happening occasionally is called managing through fear. Managing with the assumption that you only hire awesome people and it'll all be much better if you trust them is called leading through trust. And the last policy suggestion is to publicize the salary grades. To publicize all the salary grades. You say these 17 jobs fall into this salary grade and it pays from this to that. These other jobs fall into this grade and it pays this to that. You're not going to publicize individual salaries, but you're going to publicize the grades. So it's very transparent. There's nothing to hide. Why would there be anything to hide? Shouldn't be anything to hide. All right, let's look at comments and see what we have got. Let me pull down here. Only thing worse than quiet quitting is silent management when managers don't address the issues by ignoring them. Exactly right, Joanna. That's what we're talking about today, right? We're going to address stuff. We're going to get it cleared up if we address it, not if we pretend. We pretend it's not going on. The energy is going to fall back on the employee. They're going to realize no one's listening to them and they're going to leave. Surprise, companies don't care about workers and profit as a system. That's why militant unions only thinking of how to build a middle class. HR's job is to save the company money. All jobs in a company exist to maximize profit. Listen, I understand you saying that, Brandon. I don't blame you one bit. But we have HR people here that are trying to do the right thing and trying to improve the culture. And, that's what they're trying to do. It's a valiant effort. It's a worthy effort. And there are people that really care about that. And I'm here to gratify them and reinforce them in that. Love the tactics you're sharing, Liz. Change can only happen through shifts in mindset. Thanks, Beverly. Shifts in behaviors, focusing on the people side of the change. And when change starts bottom up instead of just top down, that's when true cultural, long-lasting change sticks. Evolution happens. Revolutions are born. Thank you, Beverly. I'm talking about the wave. Go to the ballpark or look on YouTube for a wave in a ballpark. You'll see what I mean. A couple people start it, and it takes over. It gets an energy of its own. People quit when we don't deliver on our promises. Isn't that the truth? We're 36 minutes in. We still don't know the sixth simple power. Now you do. Now you do. Oh, ye of little faith. Okay. I agree. Toxicity, bullying from managers, the owner of the business, owner's way or the highway, right? That's not good. That's going to be hard to fight that tide, right? If you have an owner like that. Okay. Inner shift you create can uplift the employee and its inside out job, spirit, mind, heart, body. HR has to uplift the spirit of the people and provide a safe, secure, uplifting environment, create a sense of community, and engage meaningfully, right? That's what we're talking about. Okay. Support for your management is great. Taking ownership for your company is great. Also, however, when management is narcissistic on every level, to management up to owners, turnover is the norm. It's absolutely true. But why would that happen? We have this fallacy, this idea, well, a company just hires narcissistic people. That's goofy. There's no such thing. It's just people walking around who are narcissistic. It's an environmental thing, right? It's pressure. It's too much pressure. And that's where we're going to talk about it. We're going to open that up. All right, one more comment because it's already 1 minute after the hour. Many on here have great points. Ultimately, companies, Beverly and HR, need to not just evolve, but revolutionize in order to realize a lot of what we're talking about here. Training, support system, encouragement of maximum participation in sharing ideas to grow the business. And your team, Josephine, your team needs to feel like you genuinely care about them. Nice way to end. Thank you so much for joining me today, folks. We'll be back on LinkedIn Live before long. And if you have ideas for topics you'd like for me to discuss on LinkedIn Live, then put the comments in the put your thoughts in the comment, and I'll do my best to talk about them in a future session. So thanks again. Have a fantastic day, and it's always great to see you.